Hi, I'm Christopher Titus, and this is a Supplemental Breaking News Armageddon update. Last Wednesday, Kim Jong-un spoke/scolded our nation. Trump's Christmas sham wow commercial was an amazing list of lies on the order of, well, the last time he spoke to the nation. And because Chuck Schumer was busy writing a strongly worded letter and Hakeem Jeffries was looking up 5-syllable words for his response, yeah, the president is incongruous in his fraudulent claims of an economic acceleration, when it is conspicuously evident that his incompetence and failure is complete and yet never-ending. What are you talking about, Hakeem? So here at the Armageddon Update, I've decided to go down the list of amazing bullshit that spewed from the pachyderm Kankel's lips on Wednesday. You guys ready? 11 months ago, I inherited a mess. Well, I would say you left a mess to clean up. When Trump left office, we were down 12 million jobs. COVID was raging, stores were empty, and we were stacking bodies in refrigerator trucks while dipshit suggested we inject disinfectant. Trump was handed a 3.4% unemployment rate, 5.1% GDP growth, whereas Biden was handed negative inflation because the stores were empty and 5,000 people a day were dying of COVID because dipshit called it a hoax. Then Biden got the ports open and we had stuff to buy finally, so inflation went up. At its peak, inflation was 9.1%. Last month Biden was in office, Biden got that inflation down to 2.9%. Trump's inflation number this month, 3%. And Biden did 2.9 on top of passing infrastructure, killing junk fees, and forgiving college debt. And he fixed our reputation worldwide. Inflation was the worst in history. Inflation was also not the worst in history. Federal figures show that inflation under Biden was less than half of what it was during Jimmy Carter's term, okay? There's another lie stuffed into offensive orange McDonald's disease colon. Next, cool. 25 million illegal immigrants entered the country under Biden. No. 25 million migrants did not enter the country under Biden. 25 million is bullshit, spread with a trowel. And he's changed it. He said it was 21 million, which is also a dump truck full of manure. Through December 2024, the last full month under Biden, the federal agencies counted under 11 million encounters with migrants during that administration. Now, of those encounters, millions were sent back instantly. Even adding in the people who got away and evaded detection, the number's roughly 2.2 million. During Trump's first term, Trump deported 3.1 million people. During Biden's presidency, he deported 4.1 million. And Biden did it and sent them back without kidnapping them and violating the Constitution. Violating the Constitution like our president does to 8th graders on Epstein's Island. That's how full of bullshit our dementia-riddled, nap-addicted president actually is. Many who came from insane asylums. So when CNN asked the heads of these countries if this was true, that they're sending us their crazy people, they all denied it. Then an expert on global prison population told CNN she saw absolutely no evidence at all of any country emptying its prisons to somehow release prisoners into the U.S. Trump never has evidence. You ever notice that? It's just bullshit, 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 bullshit. He just speaks it louder. Next, we had men playing in women's sports. In December, the head of the NCAA said out of 530,000 college athletes, less than 10 were transgender. That's 0.00015%. Transgender for everybody. Why do Republicans think so much about trans people? Mike Green, Lindsey Graham, and transgender for everybody sounds like your Christmas wish list, guys. Again, more bullshit to scare dumb people. So if you're scared of 8 transgender athletes countrywide, you're stupid, and that's just a fact. Next, cool. I need to take on a sick and corrupt system. Says the guy that took a $400 million plane from Qatar, released insurrectionists who committed treason and who pled guilty to committing treason. Then he scammed $3 billion with his CryptoCon, and he currently has 34 felonies. However, as dumb as he is about pretty much everything else, He's an expert in corruption. More? Excellent. I was elected in a landslide. Landslide. Okay, Trump won by 1.5%. That's not a landslide. In fact, he didn't even get 50% of the vote. Biden beat Trump in 2020 by 4.5%. That's a landslide. And in 2016, Hillary beat Trump in the popular vote. Now, I could keep going on, but his bullshit speech, he hasn't stopped 8 wars as the Ukraine-Russia conflict continues. Yeah, is it day 1 yet? Because it's supposed to be over.
I will end that war in 1 day. It'll take 24 hours.
Gasoline's under $2 a gallon. Nah, national average for gas is $2.89. So yeah, not even close. I could go on and on and on, but everything he said in his little Christmas speech yesterday was pure lies. But we're used to his bullshit, aren't we? And that's a problem, because we're used to this educationally challenged, bankrupt rapist lying daily from day one when he came down that escalator. And you maggots wouldn't take this lying from a Democrat, would you? Or a Democrat killing your health care, or starving your kids by cutting food aid, or raping your kids. Sorry, guys. That's just a reminder that the Epstein files come out on Friday. Merry Christmas. I'm Christopher Titus, and this is a supplemental breaking news Armageddon update. Oh, the speech was much longer than that, but God, even I hate hearing me talk at this point. Jesus Christ.
Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. God bless you all.
So, Tennessee had a special election recently. Right. Are you familiar?
Mm-hmm. Yep, and she was killing it, too.
What were the names? So you had Afton.
Afton, yeah.
I'm horrible with last names. Spin?
And it was a Republican dude and a Democratic chick. Leave it at that. You can see how far I'm at.
Yeah.
Weird name. Her name was, her last name.
No, I can't remember.
But polling-wise, they were stunned because she was killing it.
Yep. I think the expectation, it was either going to be close
or +3.
Or a little bit, yeah. And so, yeah, special election.
Republican Matt Van Epps and Democratic Afton Bain.
Afton Bain.
Now, Congressional District 7, Tennessee. Mm-hmm. So we actually have, I think the official results, it was around a 9% difference. Republicans led at the end, 9%, instead of 22% or so, which is what happened in the last round. So that's a pretty big closing of the distance there. Now, what's in it is very deep red. Or at least that's what, all the data was telling.
Oh, I play there. I know.
Okay. So we pulled the data for that race. We have one county we're going to show you, which is Montgomery County, generally the second most populated county in that district. You've got Davidson County as well. We're working on a full report. But we looked at that data in that county, all those precincts. And what we're going to show you is I'm going to show you what does that look like using the methods we've used before?
Right.
And we're going to show you what it looks like compared to another recent 2025 special election in Florida, which didn't get a lot of coverage, was deep red and stayed deep red. Okay. So we'll pull it up here on the screen for you.
Okay.
These methods are the same, but we've added one in. So remember last time we showed you a scatter plot, right? Each dot for each precinct. We've also got the heat maps. I'll throw in a heat map for you. And then on the right, which is the turnout binning, it's the same thing as a scatter plot, but instead of a bunch of dots on your screen in a line or two, we just put them in groups, make it super simple where we can see, is there any weird changes at certain turnout? We have examples here. For
some of the graphs make me learn. I feel like I'm learning a new language sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was like learning a new language. This is based off of the work of known election fraud experts. So like Roman Udot, Sergei Shvilkin, Peter Klimek, they all have papers out. So, but they're mostly European, or they're not U.S. based. In the U.S., it's still very difficult in the academic community, like statistics and election forensics. It's still very new. Like all of this stuff, if you were to label it, would be very cutting edge in the U.S. at least.
Okay.
And we did apply these methods in our lawsuit for Pennsylvania. So that'll be the first lawsuit in the U.S. that we know of that has applied these methods for detecting election fraud.
Okay.
So that'll be interesting. We'll see how that lawsuit goes. So in your
lawsuit, are you claiming we believe there was election fraud and we need this audited?
We pretty much say in our lawsuit, and we have some expert witnesses that'll talk about, they have PhDs and during our lawsuit, we pretty much say that this mirrors known voting manipulation in other elections. It needs to be investigated. That's just, another way of saying there's a problem here. So we're saying, hey, this looks just like Russian elections where they've manipulated things. So, okay.
So explain this.
We'll keep this super simple. This is a baseline. I like, everyone wants to kind of see what does normal look like. So this is normal. This is mail-in for Erie County, in Pennsylvania. We've put this out on multiple of our reports. I think we talked about this last time, but on the left is the scatter plots again. On the bottom, x-axis is turnout. Remember how we keep talking about more votes than voters?
Right.
So x-axis is the amount of registered voters per precinct. Y-axis is the amount of votes per precinct. And then we have a red and a blue dot per candidate. Obviously, in this case, this is a presidential race. So you got Trump is red and Harris is blue. And so from left to right, you're just showing how does each precinct look on this graph from low turnout precincts, 5%, to at the most we have like 35, 36% turnout. And we're pretty much saying, what does normal look like? Well, based on the methods of those experts I talked about, they cite a normal voting behavior is going to pretty much be no relationship between how many voters turn up to vote and how many votes were cast. So precincts, it's going to look pretty much like a straight line. And in this case, that's kind of what we see. We see that precincts where only 5% of the voters turned up and voted versus precincts where 35% voted, you're almost getting an average amount of votes for both candidates. And it doesn't seem to change a lot. And that's what we see here. And on the right, we show that same relationship and just using the binning. So in this case, it's, groups of 10%. So you got 0, 10, 20, all the way up to 30, 35. And do you see, in your own words, what does this look like? Is this a straight line? Do you see any weird changes? Do you see any?
I don't see any weird groupings or anything.
Right, you don't see.
It looks like depending on
pretty straight.
pretty
straight. And on the right, you don't see like a significant change. It's pretty weak relationship. So no relationship between turnout and vote share.
Right.
That's normal. This is what we're saying is normal. Okay. So if this is normal, now we're going to show you. We'll go back. Now we're going to show you. I'll do it this way. Now, this is Montgomery County, Tennessee, Congressional District 7. All right. I'll let you take it in first, and then we'll talk it through.
So as the day progresses...
No.
What am I looking at?
There's no time component. All right. Let me establish some more grounds. This is a snapshot. This is when all of the votes have been counted.
Okay.
This is what the county's official report is, saying, hey, this is how each precinct, how many votes for each candidate each precinct got, and how many registered voters I have in a precinct and how many votes I had overall.
Why would it cross like that?
Well, let's talk this through.
Okay.
So remember, we talk about Russian elections.
Mm-hmm.
What they've seen in like 2011 and even more recent Russian elections is they found that when you mess with the election, there's a couple ways you could do it. One way is stuffing ballots, stuffing votes. And if you stuff votes, and you stuff them from one candidate, it's going to cause the turnout to rise, and it's going to cause the amount of votes that candidate is getting to rise. And it becomes that one-to-one relationship or so.
Right.
And so what we're actually doing with these scatter plots is we're mapping that relationship. We're saying, turnout, is it going up? Does vote share for any one candidate go up as turnout is bigger in any of these precincts? So the really big precincts versus really small precincts is any one candidate changing or shifting. And so with that in mind, we see here, if this is vote manipulation, we're seeing a very strong relationship between precincts of higher turnout and the amount of votes Republican candidates are getting. And it almost looks like, if that's the case, it's an algorithm. It's a change that's happening almost, step by step.
Yeah.
And all of the precincts in the county are following that system. And on the right, go ahead.
Question. The last graph was very normal elections where they just go straight and it looks like they're, people get the same amount of votes. This one, especially in the bar graph. So as the, wait, I'm not quite.
So there's no time component.
I know we got to simplify this. So, because imagine me as the dumbest person you ever met. You already have. So what I want you to do is I want you to explain to me why this looks so weird.
Yes.
As simply as possible. Because I want people to get this. Because when you see what you said was a normal voting thing, and then you see this it's like so off base.
Yep.
Even to the bar graph, like why would it on the bigger precincts that vote be that different?
So here's the thing we get asked a lot is people ask us, could people do this, right? Could this be a normal human voting behavior? And here's the thing that you need to understand. You don't know what the results are going to be when you go in to vote. If you're trying to engage voters, you can't target certain precincts based on turnout because you don't have any of that data and that numbers.
Right.
So I can't be like, I want all of my Republican or my Democrat voters to show up, but only really at the bigger places. In this case, what we're seeing, let's say you're super popular, right? Let's say you're super popular. If you're super popular, you would have, on average, the same percentage of votes
Every precinct.
across all of the precincts.
Right.
And that's why the lines were straight in the other ones.
Right. And so what we're actually seeing here, if this is vote manipulation, we're seeing that precincts where less votes were cast or less voters showed up to vote, either or, it's, it looks the same. Places of lower turnout. In this case, precincts below 25% turnout. So in this county, in this race, below 25% turnout, we see the Democrats are getting majority of the votes.
Killing it.
Right. They're killing it. In 20% or so, I think Afton is getting closer to 60% of the vote. And what we're actually seeing happen is in precincts, if you go up in turnout, right? So we like, if you go from 25% to 30%, as turnout had increased in these precincts,
What was the number?
there's no time component.
What was the number it changed? What was the number of percentage of votes again? Because you explained to us the last time. You said in 2020, it was votes started precincts at 500 votes. They started the thing started to change,
Right.
And then in 2024 at 250. So because remember, right? Because if you believe the conspiracy, that at 250 votes in 2024, the algorithm changed.
In this case, we don't have the cast vote record that lets us know
What percentage?
how many
Okay.
sequential votes or whatever.
Got it.
But what we do know is we know that if this is vote manipulation, it could be turnout based, and you could be switching or changing votes based on how many votes were counted in a precinct or
Because
in a machine.
it's also easier to hide in the big precincts because you go, all right, so we have all these people voting. Okay, all right, at 1,000 votes, what ends up happening is if the algorithm that's connected to the cellular thing kicks in, and all of a sudden for every 3 Harris votes, it gives Trump's 5.
Right. And so the thing too is it could be the machines as you feed them into the machines, for example, or it could be the system on the back end that you send the data to. It'll look the same. And it's just and so we don't know. We just know that at the end of the day, let's say this is vote manipulation. So I get all of the results and I get the results and it looks straight. And I'm like, well, I don't like those results. I want to win. So I'm going to add in votes or take away votes gradually as turnout got bigger in these precincts.
Yeah.
And then I want the most votes at highest turnout. Why? Well, because generally speaking, we like to split up our precincts based on sizes. Larger areas are going to be, larger turnout, but not always. And what we're actually seeing then is if this is vote manipulation, it looks like the algorithm pretty much is doing, as you mentioned, right? Where it starts off low turnout, low vote count, whichever one it is, whether it's 250, 300,
Looks normal.
we don't know. We just know that places where there aren't a lot of votes, it looks normal. But then places where more votes are being counted, higher turnout, for example, we then start to see you could be taking votes from one candidate, giving them to the other. That would create this effect if you're doing it based on turnout like an algorithm. Or you could be creating votes and putting in voters, adding voters. And either effect would make this happen. And
which would give you a higher turnout percentage, like in Florida.
right. And
What you give 160. Isn't some of the precincts in Philly and stuff, wasn't there some precincts that were really heavy Democratic voters and it still changed?
And that's what's interesting is if this is turnout based vote manipulation, it doesn't care about where you're changing votes around. And one of the red flags you're going to start to find is in precincts and counties that are really blue and the demographic of voters doesn't match.
Right.
And we've documented this where like Philadelphia County, bluest county in Pennsylvania.
Right.
And yet the places where there are the most votes have been, showing that same effect in really red. And we're like, this doesn't match who's registered to vote here. And it doesn't match, like, this is in the middle of a city.
Yeah.
Does it all look like that? Does it kick in at the? Does it kick in the higher precincts?
So as we're still investigating this currently, one thing we've documented is we started mapping where these precincts are in Montgomery County. And I believe Montgomery County has Fort Campbell. I'll have to double check. It has a military base. And so one of the effects you would expect to see is that at military bases, you think they're more right-leaning, right? Well, we've started mapping that, and one of the flags we found is, ironically, the military base seems to be in this smaller turnout area and very left-leaning. So we're like, what's going on here? This is the first county, by the way. So this is Montgomery County. We are going to be putting out a report and doing the same analysis for Davidson County, which is one of the other larger ones, and some of the other smaller ones as well. Now, one thing we wanted to flag for this, right? If this is vote manipulation, if this is like stuffing votes, or just switching them based on an algorithm, this doesn't look like human voting behavior. It'd be very difficult to make voters vote like this. And one of the tests,
it doesn't.
It'd be very difficult because I have no way to know how many people are going to turn out to vote, and I can't just be like, "Hey, get all of my people to vote in these places and not in these places," and create this effect. Now, and on the right, as you said, we kind of see this as that X shape where low turnout, Democrats are winning; high turnout, Republicans are winning. It's creating that change in that X, even in places where you wouldn't expect.
And that would be, you could set up an algorithm to add at a certain number. It would start either changing votes or adding votes.
100%. If you could get into the machines or the database.
But Elon knows those voting machines.
You know those vote counting computers. All right. Now, we asked this question then. We said, if this is abnormal, what does this look like, compared to Russian elections? This one's pretty simple. If we were on a scale from Switzerland, which their data looks really good, like normal. On a scale of Switzerland to Uganda to Russia, where is the U.S. if our elections are being manipulated? Honestly, we look just like Russia, if not worse. We're seeing the same effects. We documented this in Pennsylvania. I'll show you Florida here in a moment as well.
All you people watching and listening, look at the model where it says fair voting. See how it's just kind of a center thing. You can tell everybody's going to vote. And if you look at the data from Russia.
Yeah.
Holy shit. And that's what our data looks like.
It shows the same relationship, right? If you're stuffing votes, you're going to cause turnout to rise. If you're stuffing votes for just one candidate, or, I add in a bunch of votes and I do like 2 for me, 1 for you, and I add in 100 of those, I'm going to create this effect. And that's the effect we're documenting. That's the effect that's been documented in Russia for multiple elections now. And now we're going to show you Montgomery County, as we said, versus that other special election I talked about in Volusia County, Florida. So Florida had a congressional district 6, I think back in April 2025. Yep. And deep red, right? So that was Randy Fine versus Josh Well, I believe, or Wheel. And so we said, so the first pushback we actually sent our report. We wrote an official report for Tennessee for that first county we had, and we sent it to the campaign. And we said, hey, here's some weirdness in your election results. We're worried that this isn't normal human voting behavior. We think you should contest. We think you should look at this. The response we kind of got back was, that's weird.
Here's the problem with all of this. As frustrating as this is to watch, because you can obviously see that this is, I'm getting it out, but I have to wrap my mind around it. So you're saying is the more people show up at the precinct, all of a sudden the votes, which should be normal across the board, there should be,
there can be some variation, but it shouldn't be consistent.
Right. It'd be consistently to a degree. If one guy's 3% more popular, he's going to be 3% more, but all of a sudden across the board, but except you look here when the bigger cities and the bigger counties, which are basically more liberal anyway, usually as a rule with some exceptions, it shouldn't be that way. It should still be showing a normal ratio, and it's not. All of a sudden, the Republicans go through the roof.
Well, you bring up a good point, right? It's that rural versus urban dynamic, right?
Yeah.
We're told that rural areas lean very right, very Republican, and we're told that urban areas, cities, generally lean more left.
Yep.
If that's the case, this is the exact opposite relationship we're seeing.
Right.
We're seeing that places of lower turnout and generally smaller amount of voters are leaning more left here.
So some of the rural counties are smart enough to go, we don't like this guy, let's vote. They've voted blue.
But as we said, the relationship there, pretty much documented is, even if you're in a rural area, even if you're in a really, populated area, the average is going to be the same across the board. And
so how bad was this Tennessee, do you think? All right.
This episode brought to you by Hungry Root. I got no segue. I wait for one and I don't have it. I love Hungry Root. It takes all of the guesswork out of weekly food shopping, and it helps you be healthier without having to figure that out on your own as well.
And every time you get a box, it's like Christmas.
It is like Christmas.
I like that they do when they put their stuff in. It's awesome.
You do. They have smart cart technology. You take a quick quiz when you start with Hungry Root, and then that technology recommends groceries that are tailored to your specific tastes and needs. So you're going to get different boxes every time. You can go and change things if you want, or it'll choose it for you. I like letting it choose because we've gotten to try things that we might not have tried otherwise.
And then we both tried it and then it was gone. And then I went back to try more and it was gone because someone ate it all.
Right. It's the girl that keeps losing weight. Must be me. The thing I like about Hungry Root is they screen out over 200 additives, like that we don't in the United States, but other countries do in the EU. High fructose corn syrup, artificial sweeteners, preservatives, they don't allow that crap in any of their products. It's high quality meat and seafood with no hormones or antibiotics, organic produce, non-GMO options, and they have really nice brands. And basically you're stocking your whole pantry. Snacks, ready-made grab and go food, which that's my favorite thing, is like having chicken that's already made in a thing ready to grab with a lentil salad next to it to grab and go. Or there are things that you can cook. We had street tacos that took, I think, like 5 minutes.
Oh, they're awesome.
And they were insane. So there's a lot of variety and you're busy. It's the holiday season. This is the best time to use Hungry Root.
What I love about the combination of Hungry Root is great. So you fill it this thing, you actually say what you like. They send you stuff that maybe you don't know about. It's everything we've had has been great.
Well, you can go and drag and drop.
Right. You can get your own. You can do it both ways.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. You like this. I like all this stuff. And then you can also put, can I get some extra? And
you can exclude stuff if you like hate certain things. So take advantage of our exclusive offer. For a limited time, you'll get 40% off of your first box plus a free item in the box for life. Go to hungryroot.com/Titus. Use promo code Titus. That's hungryroot.com/Titus. Code Titus. You'll get 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life. Also a great way to start your New Year's resolutions off.
So Nathan, I'm going to ask something before we go any further. The Tennessee results were very weird. I was online. Here's the one thing you can't deny. When it's weird, everybody knows it. My sister was on in North Carolina on the campaign for Kamala, and she was heartbroken because she goes, this doesn't match. She was on the street.
She's on the ground.
She was on the ground.
Yeah.
It didn't match.
We've heard that so many times.
She was so upset. She's like everybody was like, no, fuck that guy.
The
She's
first
great.
one didn't either. I was so shocked I burst into tears. That's not what was happening.
So in Tennessee,
2016?
His first one, I mean, yeah.
In Tennessee.
Lost the majority of the votes.
Mm-hmm.
In Tennessee, people like we're talking about this is not right. They were not nice. And is this from that election?
Yep.
Okay, so they did it again. They did
all right, let's simplify this, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Let's simplify this. So all we're showing here is we're saying in a county, how were voters voting based on places where only a few voters showed up versus places where a lot of voters showed up. And as documented in all these experts' opinions and papers, is that there shouldn't be a real change on average. It'll average out. So low turnout, high turnout.
Right.
You're going to get around the same average across the county because that's how people feel about you. You're all mixed in.
Right.
Now, here's what's interesting. When we submitted this preliminary analysis, right, we right off the bat, as soon as the data came in, we sent it to the campaign, started making some phone calls. And the response we got was, okay, well, how does it look compared to past elections? How does it look based on this? How does it look based on that? And I said, listen, I'll do you one better. I'm going to pull the special election for Florida. Completely different county, completely different state, completely different, race.
Right.
And it happened, at the beginning of the year, April. And I said, let's look at that voting behavior. If this is normal human voting behavior, it should vary from county to county. It shouldn't be the same. There's no way you're all going to vote in lockstep in the same way in this county and then vote the same way in a completely different area. Because if this is based off of unique demographics, it shouldn't look the same in other places. And so here's what we found. I see you asked the question. So we found that relationship, right? Low turnout, Republicans aren't doing so well. Democrats are winning. And then you hit 25% or so. So 25% turnout and higher, precincts of 25% turnout and higher begin to heavily favor Republican candidates. And if you look on the right,
which is opposite.
That's the opposite of what you would expect.
100% opposite.
So to break that down, typically higher voter turnout happens in cities. Cities traditionally, it's like Austin in Texas or Nashville in Tennessee, Philly. I mean, we work all these cities where people are like,
Las
no,
Vegas.
we're the oasis in a sea of red. Portland in Oregon. You would typically see higher voter turnout in cities. Cities typically vote blue.
Well,
Right.
what's interesting,
And that's not showing this.
well, we asked this question. We said, if this is based off the demographics, is it the same thing we're seeing in other places, right? And on the right is the Volusia
non-swing
County,
states.
right? Non-swing states, swing states, whatever. And so this is 2025. This is this year. We're about to go into 26. After the 24 election, when we said there was weirdness, and we're seeing the same exact voting behavior in these two different races, in these two different special elections. And it really begs the question, right? If this is a algorithm, if the systems are messed with, it's still potentially happening right now.
Yeah,
It was happening, and it's happening, and it could happen anywhere you're using these
But if
systems.
these are two totally different places,
Two different
it totally
places.
looks like an algorithm that a machine would handle.
It's the same thing. So
It's
on the
exactly
right,
the same.
on the right, where's the change at? On the right, what turnout threshold do you see them cross and the Republicans begin to win more of the votes? On the right. So the right is Volusia County, Florida, right? Their congressional districts. 25%, 30%, right?
Yeah.
Yep. And you're right in the middle there. So it's the same shift where whatever is happening, if you hit that threshold turnout in those precincts, and then
All of a sudden, votes
you're
start
getting more
coming.
votes. This is the same behavior we saw in Pennsylvania for the 24 election, in North Carolina, in other places in like Florida that we documented, just at a much higher threshold, closer to 60%, which was interesting. And one thing you said, I think that we may not want to hammer home, is if you're going to mess with stuff, why would you care about higher turnout? Well,
Easy to hide.
if you're going to audit, you're auditing smaller areas, smaller samples. But the other thing is, where's the majority of the vote? The majority of the vote is going to be those higher turnout locations
Right.
in those cities, right? Because they're going to have more people there, and they're going to be more engaged.
It would be harder to also prove. Also, if you did it where a low turnout, then it'd be easy to prove because it's a lot less data to
Less
look
to
at.
go through.
It's less to go through.
It
So
wouldn't
if-
match
if
what
you-
people are.
No, it wouldn't. And if you do it like this, then they go, well, it's everybody voted for me. Is this repeatable? This same pattern repeatable in the swing states and in areas where you think this is a big city? We know the city's blue mostly, majority blue. Did it do that across the board?
So in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia County, same effect. North Carolina, all across some of the biggest counties. We're going to now put out reports here in the very near future for Detroit, Michigan. That was going to be interesting.
Detroit's- wow.
Well,
did this repeat in Detroit?
Detroit is interesting because we found, there are some problems, but what's interesting is Detroit changed how they do their elections a little bit. In Michigan, they had identified those cellular modems in their systems, early 2000s, and they said, hey, this is a problem. So they took them out, apparently. That's at least what we were being told. They took out, the modems, and they may have improved their election systems. So Detroit looks like an island in a messed up sea.
Really?
It's very interesting. But as I said, we'll have that report out. We'll have that made public.
Oh, we got to have that back.
That one will be interesting.
So if Detroit decided to change its voting machines so they don't have modems in them and their data looks normal,
yeah,
that's
look different,
that's the control group you needed.
Well, we have another control group,
Okay.
and I'm about to show that one to you. I think that generally covers the main things, as we said.
Well,
Montgomery and Florida.
Can we check off the Tennessee thing now?
Yeah.
Check it. Okay,
Yeah.
Tennessee
And
checked
then
off.
Here's the final visual for you. You asked the question, have we seen this before? It's the same relationship at a higher turnout. So you got on the left here, all of the counties of Pennsylvania. And then on the right, you got the three major counties we've talked about for Florida for the 24 presidential election. That's like Palm Beach, St. Lucie,
Right.
Miami-Dade. Those are the big ones in Florida. And so it's the same voting behavior across completely different areas, swing state, non-swing state. And we're just saying, hey, listen, if this is a compromise of the systems, this voting behavior, it mirrors and it matches. And there's one final piece I wanted to make that we've not really hammered home and haven't really made public yet. And we get told this a lot. We get told people didn't show up to vote, right?
That's not true.
In the 24 election, we get told people didn't show up to vote. You had record levels of
Yeah.
engagement.
Yep.
You had record levels of registration.
Yep.
But people didn't show up to vote. You had 7-hour lines in some
Yeah.
places.
Yep.
People were
But people didn't
pissed.
show up to vote.
Yeah. Mhm.
Well, what's interesting is if this is vote manipulation, this algorithm suggests that not only would you switch votes or add in votes based on turnout, but once you hit your threshold, you just start deleting extra votes.
Yep.
And what we're actually seeing in Pennsylvania and Florida for the presidential election, our concern is that if this is manipulation, the algorithm says 55, 60%.
Yeah.
I'm going to get my candidate at that level. And then any extra votes, I'm just getting rid of them.
Yep.
I'm just deleting them. And you'll notice highest levels of turnout is where you're seeing this 65% turnout and higher.
Yeah.
72, 77, and a majority of the votes. We actually broke this down by like how many votes are in each section.
Well,
And-
interesting if you're saying that the average is it would be around, right? That 65%, maybe a little less. That's when then they just get rid of votes. So all
More
those
votes.
extra angry people, we're just going to leave it right at.
And basic audits would flag more ballots
Yeah.
than votes counted, right?
Well, you would think, but apparently not always.
Well, remember,
a law
You just got to investigate, right?
Well, yeah, investigate. Well, this needs a documentary. Is what this needs. This needs a well-explained documentary. Us doing it on the
I hear
podcast
Dinesh
isn't right.
D'Souza is available.
No, this
Well-
needs but like you said, go and meeting people. Go, what happened here?
Right,
What happened to
on
your
the
vote?
ground.
How many people that thing in Rockland? People were like, I didn't vote for like that's
Let me
my.
ask you, is it possible to obtain voter rolls that show who they voted for? Or
No.
is that, okay.
It's only the party. Some states don't even have by party. We don't know. They don't document who you voted for. They document what party you voted for or what party you're registered for.
Yeah.
But you can show up and you can vote for who you want.
Right.
It's illegal, generally speaking, to document like who you cast your vote for.
And you
I can
can't-
ask you though.
I mean, I guess then the way to do it is to go
You could
to
go
a
ask.
small county.
Yep.
One where you could physically get to every person, like Rockland.
Right. Or
And-
make a system
yeah.
that would allow you to interface with people at
Right.
scale. Yeah. Now, one final piece I wanted to make, just to tie this back. So remember Pennsylvania lawsuit.
Yeah,
Remember what I mentioned about 65,000 ballots hand duplicated, but
Yeah.
only
Yeah.
55.
which
or so
by the
of
way,
them?
again, should have shut everything down. Wait, you're gonna let a bunch of yahoos
Wait,
fucking
just hold
change
on.
our votes?
hand duplicate.
To hear the end of that
I-
sentence.
well, no, you-
65,000. Say that again.
65,000 ballots were hand duplicated
Yeah.
per a official statement like made by one of the people
Remember, he
working
said
there.
because the machines didn't
And
work.
then, but
Because the machine, and then they fed them into the machines. So they had a
Right.
number of how many ballots do I have?
right.
Fed them into the machines, and then output was only 55,000 votes cast. And so we're saying, if you could do this,
Holy shit!
are you deleting votes?
That was the sentence I wanted.
Holy shit! That means so. Let's say they did fill out 65,000, and then they fed them into the machines, and the machine only pumped out 55,000 votes.
The machine hit
Holy-
a threshold of
The
some
machine
sort.
hit its limit and said, "Fuck these people. This zip code is wrong. Get rid of these
That's
votes."
that's the throwaway after
Possible.
a certain percentage.
And we're saying if that's happening, it's happening across Pennsylvania, but we only could catch it because they had to hand duplicate, because we had that extra amount of,
Oh.
here's how many ballots I had. That's why our lawsuit
That's
wants
the
a hand
only
count.
reason why you have
That was the only reason there's problems.
Did this repeat in non-swing states?
Yes.
This did repeat in non-swing.
We are seeing the same effect in Florida. We have started documenting problems in Texas, and we'll make a report on that. We found some problems in California.
Central California.
Maybe. And the thing is, it's all about who uses, the machines, right? In this case, as you see, I've shown this before, I believe, but we are very worried. It doesn't matter where. It matters what systems you're using,
Right.
because if they are connected and you can get into them and you've compromised them, as you see here, ES&S, that largest system all over the U.S., swing state, non-swing state. Dominion. I don't know. Did we talk about Dominion yet?
Well, no, we
Last
wanted.
time.
We know they got sold, and we know they were bought
Yeah.
by a mega supported billionaire.
So Dominion, I believe, is somewhere between 10 to 20% of the voting systems, but they're the second. They're the second largest.
Yeah.
So ES&S is the largest. They're like 60% or more. And as you can see, right, main swing states, some of the more, Middle East, Middle Central
Are
areas.
these colors representing how these counties voted?
They're not. They're representing what systems they use.
Oh, systems. I got it.
This is more of a placeholder.
Yeah.
I can get you a better one. But yeah,
Hart?
ES&S, pretty big.
Interesting.
Hart Intercivic, there's the third
What
largest.
states would you say Hart is in heavily?
Oklahoma.
No, don't give it. I want
Okay.
him. I
I can't
wanted
see it.
his geography knowledge.
Oklahoma, I mean, see, it's Oklahoma. Texas.
What about that small
What
one
about
down
the
there on
other?
the left?
Pennsylvania, Kentucky.
No, he's right. He's right. Kentucky
Oh,
as
you
well.
got over there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's got Kentucky.
What about?
The islands.
Oh, that's.
I feel like we're just putting him on the spot now. That's probably mean.
It's-
Yeah, I know what Hawaii.
Oh
is.
no!
Hawaii.
On one podcast several years ago, he was given a geography
Oh.
test
It's not good.
Well,
by
Listen,
a listener.
I'll be honest. If you gave me a geography test before I started doing this,
Yeah.
I would have had a word.
Right,
Now
right.
I got called out on a early video.
What's this state right
Which one?
above the red state?
Don't ask me that question right now.
Ohio, isn't it?
Down here?
No, at the bottom,
Where at
red?
the bottom,
See the red?
above the
boot?
red boot.
above the red boot.
Yeah.
Missouri, Mississippi, Missouri.
This is just. I just wanted to
What
give
is it?
everybody a quick break. Okay.
Anyways, all right.
What's the boot?
Yeah, I'm gonna ask you. I'm gonna grill you on card.
Listen,
knowledge.
I don't do
Do you know
math.
the boot?
The boot. Italy.
Listen, don't. There's a few things you don't
Yes,
do publicly.
Actually, I'll give you that.
You don't want to do math live, and you don't want to do geography,
No, ever.
especially if you're not
Louisiana.
familiar with Europe. Yeah. Okay.
But Italy as well.
Now, to make the point one more time, we're finding these problems across the U.S., swing state and non-swing state. We do see some differences based on where, but the overall effect, we are very worried if you could compromise these major systems, and you know how to compromise these major systems. We're using them everywhere.
What's the white? Does that mean they don't use?
It's not that top 3 brand.
Oh,
There's
okay.
other smaller
Okay.
brands. So yeah, this is just a good visual for that. Now, I wanted to ask a little bit more about the systems and the machines, but so Dominion, right?
Okay. Mhm.
Now Liberty votes. There are some concerns. We mentioned a few times, right? We're worried. Why would a private company, have such control over our
Right.
systems, right? Who's
Makes no
really
sense.
checking? And one of the things that's come up is the owner now of Liberty Vote that bought them out.
Used to be Dominion.
Yeah, rebranded now is we're not going to say his name, but what's interesting, former Republican election official. He's a founder of one of the larger poll book brands, No Inc. And what's interesting is, remember what we talked about, if you could compromise the registration system, you could compromise the tabulation system. Well, the poll books are all connected. You get into any one of those major systems, you can probably,
Change the polls.
you can go anywhere you want. So there are some concerns. I'll ask this question just out loud. Should any companies that have a major stake and major control of our voting systems take money from partisan entities? Should they be associated with partisan entities? These are the type of things that we raise red flags for, because it should be nonpartisan, right? Like, it should be a conflict of
But
interest.
what I don't understand, and it makes no sense, is why in the most important
process, right?
process in our country, like what we're known for, why would you let some private company with obviously their own interests at stake run the election? Because if you're a billionaire, you're going to want the Republicans to win to give you the tax cuts, and you run the voting systems. What I'm saying is, why isn't it? What I don't get about this is,
Right.
why isn't this run by a nonpartisan arm of the government instead of these private companies? It makes absolutely zero sense.
It'd be the smart thing to do.
Yeah, just we have maybe a federalized central thing, and then we go out to the states, and then we also need an oversight thing that checks everything. Because when you just said that, you can't just say we're going to update the software on the voting machines a week before.
Right. And here's the other thing.
What's really interesting? I just realized.
What's that?
I don't even know if I should say this.
Yes, you should.
So the person, Scott Leinendecker, who has purchased Dominion, I said it, you didn't.
I have a big enough target on my back.
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah, and I don't read reviews or comments, so I'm good.
His clothing is all Kevlar, just so you know.
I am armed. I guess it surprised everyone, given that he was a far right wing. He kind of parrots things that Trump says.
He's pushing for paper ballots,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So interestingly, my cousin works for a company who makes acquisitions happen. And about a year ago, my cousin was visiting me here and told me that his company that he works for had acquired Dominion Voting, which would mean that he helped broker this deal for Scott Leinendecker.
Well, what's
Shit.
interesting, I did meet with some staff, Secretary of State of Nevada, who, if you go back to that map, Nevada uses Dominion. Like that's it. That's what they use, main systems. And what's interesting is, as the push we're getting now, I saw some public statements about trying to push Dominion voting, which is they have a lot of voting machines, like touchscreen, like you go and you touch, there's no ballot stuff. A big push, there is a big push, and I've seen some people make some statements about paper ballots, right? Going and only using paper ballots.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned before, we already use paper ballots, but we don't use paper ballots everywhere.
Right.
And what's interesting is, as we mentioned, doesn't matter if they're paper ballots or not, they're still counted by machines.
Yeah.
And some of the things we've done, we've actually, the ETA at this point has actually done some inspections in some places. We can't really talk about them. Went in person, did some inspections, looked at the paper, looked at the other things, the chain of custody. And the reason why paper ballots is interesting is if you could change the results when the paper ballots are scanned, and then you have control over the chain of custody of those paper ballots, you'd never be able to prove I messed with anything.
Right. The machine
There's
would do it.
Yeah, the machine would do it.
I
and
fed
then,
the paper ballots in. What are you
and
talking
then
about?
if you ever wanted to check, I've got to tell you where I'm going to look. I've got to, like the county officials, things like that. So it's very interesting. Paper ballots are anonymous. Like we've inspected a lot, and they don't tell. Like once they're cast, if I were to throw in my own, you'd never know.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. There's
So
no
do you think
chain
that-
of custody.
So I want to just say this before we go and move on to the next thing. Listen, we have companies right now, Meta, Google, we have all these companies, Facebook, Instagram, all these companies that basically have built an algorithm that actually starts to affect, it's crazy on your phone, what you can see, how you see, if it hears in the microphone something. It is not a leap at all, to think that if Musk, whoever, let's say whatever happened, if you have a cellular network in these machines, you update the software a couple weeks before, say what was the word you used?
It's minimus.
It's minimus. It's
a minimal update.
Nothing. What?
Nothing
it's
to
like
look at.
Nothing to see here, which is what you're getting told. It is not a leap at all to think that all that would have to do, and your data shows it, that at okay, guys, at 25 to 30%, at 30%, what happens is we're going to raise every time a Kamala voter comes in. We get 2 votes for Trump. Then at the end, what we're going to do is we're going to take out 4% of the vote. We're going to get rid of 4% of the Democratic vote based on these. That's not even with what we have in our hands, it's not even a question that could be done.
You could do this.
And your data shows that's what it's doing.
They shut down the pipeline with a computer.
Right.
From another country.
Listen, you could do this with a calculator.
Right.
Yeah.
Like the level of process, this is minuscule.
Yeah.
And the thing is, really the flag and the pushback we get is these systems are decentralized, which we know they aren't.
Yeah.
These systems aren't connected to the internet, which we know
No,
they
are.
They are. All you got to do is get in.
Yeah.
And we've shown 2016, Russia got in.
Yeah.
We know now in 2021, there has been multiple successful compromises of the major voting systems. Coffee County, Georgia, right? With the election management system, Dominion, where, some people got in, got access to the equipment, to the systems.
Yeah.
We know Mesa County, Colorado, right?
Mm-hmm.
Someone who's potentially trying to be taken out of prison right now. She helped compromise the election management system in Colorado.
I want to point.
There's some stuff in Michigan too.
Everybody at the inaugural are the heads of the highest tech companies on the planet. They were at the freaking presidential election
In front of his cabinet.
and standing in front of the people that run the government.
Yeah.
This is not even
Now, if you wanted to get into conspiracy, just to show how simple it could be, right? With my background, cybersecurity, information systems, network security. So, listen, if something's got a cellular modem in it, I'm walking around with a cellular modem in my pocket.
Mhm.
Right.
If I know what I'm doing, if I know these systems, if I've gotten in, compromised them, I know how they work. I know who runs them. I know what they're connected to.
Or maybe you're with the company that updated it.
Or maybe I'm with the company that runs the systems. We don't know. All I'd have to do is put a vulnerability or find a vulnerability. I could put malware on those systems. I could walk around.
Maybe with an update.
We'd never know.
A minimus update.
Or just open the door, right?
Yeah.
That update opens the door and I walk right through. We don't know. And that's the point, is the only way to know.
But the data shows that that's most likely.
That's exactly where we're going.
And if they're saying that, well, they're not connected during voting, but we send our tabulations when it's all
We're using
over,
this pipeline.
which means that it's online at some point.
Yep.
If I'm online at some point, like we just said about ExpressVPN in an airport, a hacker can at that point get into my phone and and put malware on my phone.
Well, yes. And the thing we need to understand is at this scale, it's not just some dude sitting in a basement.
Right.
At this scale, it's
Right.
nation states. It's Russia.
Yeah.
It's other
Yeah.
entities. Their resources, their manpower, their
Yeah.
capability. If they want to do it, they can do it.
He's got massive I don't know. He's got massive call centers in St. Petersburg. I mean, the Mueller investigation documented
Listen.
that.
Here's
I called it
Yeah.
a call center like I was 95, but you know
No,
what
I mean,
but wouldn't this take how many thousands of people to make this work? No, it wouldn't. That's what. Okay, no, it wouldn't.
listen, honestly,
Listen, Linda.
listen. Honestly, if you got your people in the right place, you could do this with a handful of people.
Yeah.
They'd never know. And they know if I ever say anything,
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
it wouldn't
They
take a lot.
fall out
Now-
of high-story buildings.
Now, listen,
Remember when Epstein, the cameras went out at Epstein's cell? Yeah.
it would help. It would help to have some, leverage over some people who could have caught this and, could have investigated and never did. It'd help to have some leverage, over them. So if it does
like
come
a
up,
PP tape.
but you bring up a good point. How would you even catch this, right? If I've compromised the systems on a mass scale, right? If I'm changing stuff around, how could I even catch this? Well, this isn't the first time something like this has happened. Not for elections, but for vehicles, for gas emissions. Have you heard of Volkswagen?
Yep.
So you've heard of
I remember
Dieselgate,
this.
as it's dubbed.
Yep.
So yeah. So for background, Dieselgate was a scandal where Volkswagen got caught cheating their emissions tests, cheating their audits, because they had software in their cars that when they were drove on the highway, they turned off emissions control and put out I think 4 times or 40 times the emissions. But when they were being tested, when they're in a lab or when they're being tested by the auditors, they were normal.
The software would work.
The software was changing stuff, right? There was software built into the machines. And we
well, on the road at a certain mile an hour, it would turn it off,
Yeah.
and the car could
It would
put out as
turn-
much
yeah.
pollution as possible for performance. However, when you got it into the hook to the machine,
tested
it would back everything off, so it passes emissions.
Exactly. And so the only reason this was caught was because the data didn't add up. There were a couple different entities. I know there was a nonprofit, the International Council on Clean Transportation, kind of doing what we're doing right now. They were getting data. The data didn't match what they were being told. The emissions were way too high in, reality versus what the companies said they were outputting. So they said, well, let's come up with a way to test this. How could we catch this if it's happening? And in this case, what they did was they took Volkswagen's vehicles, they put emission testers on the vehicles, and they drove them on the highway. They tested them in use. And so in this case, we can't do that with our election systems because obviously, but what we can do is we can look at those original ballots. We can look at those original votes. We can look at those original registration records and see what is going on here, because the data doesn't add up. And if you were changing things, we have hit every checkbox of red flags that would be a side effect of it.
How would you do what you just said? Do we have all the?
We've already started.
Vote by vote by vote by vote. You have to go and look at.
So if the states won't do it, if the secretaries of state won't do it, if the counties can't do it, and our law really doesn't let them do it unless they open a legal investigation, the only way we can force a actual audit is a lawsuit. And we filed our first lawsuit. Our hearing is probably going to be our first hearing, probably January. We've got other lawsuits we're working on.
People, listen up to me for a second. Listen, this is probably the most important thing in America right now, is to make sure that we are not being fucked over by our election system that we claim is the best in the world. So if you can, I want you to go to Election Truth Alliance, donate to them. Let's help them get some attorneys. Let's help them pay their people, because we can get this done. I want you to know that we keep having Nathan on because this is stunning to me. And when you looked at the poll numbers, let's just take anecdotal and evidence. When you looked at the poll numbers, she was kicking his ass. When you look at the rallies, she was selling out stadiums and he could barely fill like a half of
I think there were some donation records as well, like the last round of donations, and it was record levels of donations too.
And again, my sister, everybody I talked to that worked for was like, I don't understand what happened. There was nobody. My sister was saying she went to hardcore. She had some problems. My sister was we should have her talk about the election, because remember, she would go someplace and say, fucking liberals, and she had to deal with those guys, and she'd be like, okay, great meeting you. Yeah. And then there was somebody like, I don't like this guy. Yeah, she's super nice. It's pretty obvious that this is wrong. This is so outside the norm. We don't even have any past elections in the last 30 years that show numbers like this or graphs like this, right? Please tell me you've Oh, really?
I'm not. Listen.
Have you gone back and looked at some of it?
I will say that we have pulled records and data going back to early 1990s. And what's interesting is we've started mapping out, when did we start using these systems? Mm-hmm. And when did the voting behaviors begin to change? And most people don't realize Diebold had a whole scandal and were forced to break off into our two major systems we use now, I guess, in Dominion. They had a whole scandal because they were found, maybe not being so transparent with their stuff. So I can't really talk too much about that. I can't really go back. So we have
a history of this.
Yeah, this isn't.
So why the fuck aren't we setting some sort of national system where our voting doesn't get fucked with? That's the dumbest shit ever. Oh, because the people in power want to figure out how to manipulate it when they can.
Well, I'll say this. The people who would benefit, if you could change elections, if you could put people in positions, the people who would benefit from cheating elections would then never support investigating cheating elections or making laws or improving products.
I mean, like audits. Now.
Well, and now I have one final piece for you. One final piece for you. This is the last big thing.
Well,
last big thing. So we took that whole Volkswagen thing, right? We said, hey, if someone's messing with our systems and we want to hand count, well, we're going to have to sue. We're going to have to do all of this, which we have, right? We've got our first lawsuit. We'll have more. What else can we do? Did anyone hand count their results in the 24 election?
Did they?
They did. There were a few counties, very small, that did hand count their results.
No machines.
No machines.
Okay.
And we got their voting data.
Uh-oh.
We got their voting data and we did an analysis. So we have Minnesota, Congressional District 8. This is a special report we've wrote. This race happened at the same time as the presidential election. And in this case, we pulled all of the counties in this district and we compared, did this county count their votes by hand or did they count them with a machine? And on the right, we have those counties and the precincts in those counties that counted by hand. These were generally smaller areas. I know the average size of these precincts for votes and registered voters, in this case, anywhere from 50 to around 360.
Looks exactly like the first data point.
Hand counting data on the right, if you're using a scatter plot, it looks normal. Normal human voting behavior. Hand counted. Little caveat is Republicans were actually doing well in those smaller areas.
Rural counties.
Smaller,
like we expect.
Yeah. So the Republicans were actually winning, I think on average had somewhere close to 60%. So what we've been told
and shown for 100 years shows up when the hand counting.
And we don't have any weird changes where low turnout, high turnout. We see both candidates on the right get around the same percentage of votes across all the precincts on average. That's normal. On the left is every other precinct and every other county in that Congressional District 8. I think
counted by machine.
Counted by machine.
Holy shit.
I know it's hard to see. I'll probably give him a better visual, but what you're seeing is the exact same relationship that we've documented in Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Florida, in these special elections recently. And it mirrors known election fraud in Russia and other elections. It looks just like it. I have that on the next slide. So you'll like this. We broke it down as well. The change from those hand counting results to the machine counting was anywhere from 9 to 10% on average. So that means 9 to 10% of the votes, if it's vote manipulation, were changed from one candidate to the other. Now, I don't know how familiar you are with like the 24 results, but do you think 10% of the votes being changed during a presidential election at scale would change the outcome of that election?
100%.
How close was our last election? It was.
He keeps claiming that like a landslide. It was 1.2%.
They were almost, they were like slightly under 50% one way, slightly above. So 10%, that would change the outcome of elections.
So he would have lost by a fuck ton.
We don't know, but what
Well,
our data tells us,
Okay, based on this, based on what you said, if there was a 10% change
on average, a
Okay,
little more, a little
on
less.
the machine count,
In this case, for the presidential results,
He
hand
would've-
count, 6% is really what we saw here.
he would have lost by exactly what everybody thought he was going to lose by.
Yeah. So
And what the
6%.
polls would have said.
Now, what's interesting, if this is vote manipulation, right? The presidential, 6%. Minnesota's kind of doesn't really matter because Minnesota was so blue anyways.
Right.
But same systems across the U.S. And what's interesting is the ETA, looked those down ballot races as well. And here are the down ballots is we actually see the same effect in these down ballot races. Now, it didn't change the outcome of Minnesota at large, even though this was happening, right? Harris still won Minnesota. But what's interesting is because of, the breakdown in places where it was much closer, 8%, 6%, that's enough to change the outcome of every swing state.
Yep.
That's enough to change the outcome of some of the non-swing states. And it begs the question, why is it that machine counting shows this effect unless you are manipulating the results using these machines?
I'll say it again. I don't understand why the Democrats aren't screaming about this. And Ray, I think Ray has a good point because he did it for so long. We just look like idiots. We look like him. But the problem is when you show they don't have the data. They can't show it.
Right.
You can show it.
And
That's the difference.
yeah, just here's where the data takes us, and let's go look. Right?
Okay.
Let's go.
All right. Let's go.
But that's kind of all the visuals for you. Now, I did have a few other points, but it's mostly like the midterms, right? So I'll say this.
Last thing we're checking out midterms.
As we've said, right? Listen, midterms. Same systems, same vendors. It's all going to be the same in the 2026.
Except now one of them is owned by a right-wing mega election, a Republican election guy.
Right.
That's different.
Well, and that's the second largest system as well.
Holy shit.
Now, the thing that people need to understand as well, we're not hand counting the midterms. It's all going to be
Right.
machine counted, whether it's paper ballot, whether it's mail in, whether it's not. And one of the things that we found as well is if this is a compromise of the voting systems or the tabulator, whatever it is, right? The election management
even if it's
system,
on the B side after that, when
it doesn't matter.
votes are sent, it doesn't matter.
The
Right.
pipeline, right? If someone's in, then if this algorithm is based on turnout, the difference we're finding in these recent elections. So how do you think a special election in an off season versus a presidential election in turnout, how does that differ? What do you think? How many people show up to a special election?
Well, used to special
A lot
election
less.
was a lot less, but
Lot
now
less.
it's
A little more,
definitely-
right?
Yeah.
A little more. Now, what's interesting, presidential elections is when we see the record levels of turnout and engagement.
Yeah.
So if you've compromised the systems and you got an algorithm baked in or put in or whatever based on turnout, we're finding ETA will be putting out reports looking at like some of the most recent special elections that the Democrats are winning. We're finding low turnout. Generally, Democrats are doing better, right? Even these recent special elections,
It's not
hitting a threshold, hypothetically. But in these other places, these deep, dark red places, we're finding if that threshold is there, it's much of a lower threshold. You're hitting it. Low turnout, 25% instead of 60%. Now, what do we think the midterms is going to look like?
I would say a high turnout.
If the midterms is high turnout, right? Because I feel like many people are aware politically right now. Midterms probably going to be
Yes.
impactful. A lot of seats are up for grabs, if
Yeah.
you will. A lot of change. Well, what's interesting then is if we're going to use the same systems that haven't been fixed, haven't been investigated, may still be vulnerable. If this is malware, right? If this is Russia getting into our voting systems, the door's still open.
Right.
And what are we going to do about it, right? How can we do anything before the midterms? How can we stop it? How can we catch it?
Right.
Right. And I'll say, one of the things the ETA is focusing on doing is, everyone kind of wants, what's the statement they say? They always say, show me the proof. I'm like, hey, let's investigate. Show me the
Right.
proof we need to
Well, I
investigate.
need to investigate to get the
That's
proof.
the whole point of investigation, to get the proof.
Exactly. So I asked this question: what kind of smoking gun do you have to get an investigation? I mean, at that point, that's why we've got lawsuits, moving forward,
Yeah.
and we're doing this because at this point, I don't know what else is out there
I
besides
need
getting the ballots.
Sergey laboratory to
Yeah.
come forward and say, I was in a call center, Putin made me do it.
Right. Well, and to be honest, the people who could have been involved in this they will probably never
Right.
be able to talk about this, because if you do,
Yeah.
all is forfeit, right?
Yeah.
Like this is some level of stuff that most people don't realize. Like if this is real, right? If everything I've shown you is true, which I mean, I'm
What are the
100% in.
Yeah.
What are
This-
the odds? That's an anomaly. What are the odds?
Right, that's an anomaly.
What-
But,
yeah.
but here's the point: is right. If this is real, if this is happening, this is the greatest heist in American history.
Yep.
This is the biggest stake, the biggest game, and the actors that would be playing this game are astronomical.
But it's $1 trillion game.
It's more than that.
Well, yeah, I mean, power of the world, but I mean, but money wise, this guy cares about money, but I mean, it's world domination game. Like it's.
I mean, Elon just signed to become a trillionaire. Trump just made how many billions in his first year in
Like
office?
3.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah. And the point is, if you can rig an election, if you can put your people in power,
Contract.
you got everything. But here's the downside: you got to keep doing it.
Right.
You got to keep winning. You got to keep rigging. You got to keep your people close, because it all starts to crumble and fall apart.
Right.
You know, when there's a
So what you
chink
do
in the
is
armor.
you have a billionaire who's on your side by the voting systems.
And so the question then is, how can we catch this going forward?
Right.
What can we do right now before the midterms? Right. So the ETA, I mean, at this point, right, I'm not going anywhere. We've raised funds. I think at this point, the ETA has raised a little over $200,000, a little more than that. Majority of that has been spent already on our legal efforts, our lawsuits that are public and that are not public and will be public soon. The other half of it goes to building the things we're going to need to fight this fight come the midterms. I mentioned, there's an effort to come up with new systems and new ways of reporting problems and errors, collecting the data. We've automated a lot of this methods, these analysis, so that you can turn it around. We had this Tennessee report within a day of the results.
Wow.
We could do it for the midterms, but we have to be able to get people to act on these problems. So one of the things BTA is hoping to do, right, is we are pushing, a campaign for, preparing hand counts for the midterms, right? We should be hand counting the midterms, whether after the results have been counted or not, it doesn't matter. Like we should be hand counting them. And we need candidates who will contest and who will hand count,
Right.
when or not.
That's the in Tennessee. I was really shocked that she
She would not.
demand it.
Her lawyers,
Why?
Her lawyers said there's nothing really to go on. I think their mindset as well in Tennessee was because of that 20 or 22%.
They thought they did good because
They
it
thought
was
they
down
did
to
good.
9. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're kind of like, hey, this is a win. But we're over here saying, hey, there's problems that still need to be looked at. So really, one of the easiest ways to catch this going forward is going to be having people who will run or who have run, who will actually
Yeah.
stand up and say, I want a second look. I'm not just going to give up.
Kamala did it, honestly. I was really
Well,
surprised.
I can't name names and I can't say too much, but there's concerns we're having now where some of the people around the previous, candidates, they said, hey, just, it's all right. Hey, don't do it. Even if they wanted to, right?
Yeah.
Even if they said, hey, there's something wrong here.
Because
The
we're
lawyers,
going to
the
look like
people-
him. We're going to look like him.
Right.
We can't do that. The difference is
Just
this.
sit down, shut up, like
The fucker had 8 years to come up with evidence. You have evidence. You have data. You have a pattern that shows that things are different. That's the difference. And I'm sure that would have happened. I'm sure you guys are just saying what they say. No, we are not. You guys came up with nothing in 8
Well,
years. Here's what we have.
I will say there was a audit of the 2020 election. There was not a actual wide scale audit of the 24 election.
Mhm.
And remember the 2020 Arizona audits?
Yeah.
Everything that happened there.
Cyber ninjas.
Yeah. But they didn't find anything. And
They
that's the
found
point we're getting at.
more votes for Biden.
And so that's the point we're getting at is why are we so afraid of opening that ballot box? Why is it so ingrained in our culture? It can't happen here. It's impossible, when doing the work and doing these audits or these inspections would just reaffirm
Because it's like
He won.
facing you have cancer.
or this or that.
Because when you get told you have cancer, you're like, no, I don't. No,
Are
I
we
don't.
in the
No
denial
fucking way.
phase right now? Is that-
100%. Listen, we've been told our whole lives that America is number one. We have the freest and fairest elections. Yeah, I remember when Iran voted, would let women vote, and everyone had ink on their finger, or it was Iraq, whatever.
like,
You remember that? Iraq, you remember that? And no one wants to take a minute to go, wait, we have the biggest criminal we've ever had as president, 34 felonies. We've never had a man that this much of a criminal. We never had a man that actually got his charity taken away because he stole kids cancer charity. He took their money. We have the worst person ever. What I don't understand is why we aren't stopping and going, this guy crimes every fucking hour of every day. We need to at least check the elections. He's been seeing Putin since 1987. Don't you think it's at least...
What's the chance?
Yeah, what's the chance? And let's say, and if we're wrong, we're wrong. But then we as a country can go forward. Right now, we're in a place where no one wants to face they have cancer. And we have cancer, and it's in the White House. And he cut away the East Wing like a tumor, too. So I'm just saying that no one wants to face that their country is fucked up. You know, people never want to believe that my country's falling. And that's what's happening right now.
What do they say, the first step, right? The first step
recognizing you have a problem. Yeah. Admitting you have a problem. We have to admit we have a problem. And your data shows that we have a problem.
Our elections are not as safe and secure as we are told they are.
They are not at all, especially if they have modems in those things. If they have cellular modems in those things, that shouldn't be a thing.
It's a game changer. It's a deal breaker, right? And I think the point we're getting at now is it's easy to kind of look at everything and be like, oh, the house is on fire, right? But the first step is understanding this is a problem. There are ways that we can fix them. And I hope that the reason, really why we do this is when people kind of hear about these things, it gets easier. And, as we get into these lawsuits and we hopefully get access and maybe even get, hand counts, it's not going to be a surprise if there are problems.
Right.
It's going to be like, here we are.
So, yeah.
And then we need to do something about it. The midterms is an opportunity for the American people to have representation, right? Probably one of the most impactful midterms of my lifetime to date. And I think the opportunity then is we need to be ready that if there are problems with that election, that we don't just bury our heads in the sand.
But it would also go to the reason I keep asking, right? And I've asked my people, why is the Republican Congress so quiet about this guy? Why is the Republican Congress willing to literally motherfuck themselves and their voters daily?
Now, I will say this.
Let me finish. I think it's because if you took all those guys aside and go, don't worry about it, we got your election covered. We got your election covered.
Are you familiar with a quote from the current Speaker of the House that was made by the current president about having a little secret, right? Maybe around voting, little secret.
Yes.
And I'll say this. So hypothetically, if I can put my thumb on the scale, or I've had my thumb on the scale
since 2016,
or maybe even earlier, then I have a collection of people who could never go against me because I own them. Right. I own you. You are in your spot because of me or because of my group. And you will never, speak out about it because you go down. We go down together, right? We all go down together.
And the only smart way to do it is what Marjorie Taylor Greene did: is bail. Just come out.
So I'm just saying, if you can compromise elections.
We talked about this last time. This was at the rally at Madison Square Garden that was really Nazi throwback. Trump said, I think with our little secret, we are going to do really well with the House. Our little secret is having a big impact. He and I, Mike Johnson, have a little secret. We will tell you what it is when the race is over.
Now, I'll say this. The ETA will be putting out reports looking at some of those down ballot races for the presidential election.
Okay.
And how impactful it may be.
When pressed, Speaker Johnson released a statement. By definition, a secret is not to be shared, and I don't intend to share this one.
So hypothetically, if I can change the outcome of a presidential election, I can change the outcome of every other race on that ticket.
That's what I'm saying. So the midterms looking right now, and this is maybe we were talking about why is he doesn't seem to give a shit. Mm-mm. Well, if he knows it doesn't matter, and that these machines now one of the guy that's running the Liberty voting system now used to be Dominion. If he's going to do everything, why the fuck would he give a shit? I'm just going to do what I want. He's going to do what I want. What are you going to do? You're not going to get, oh, we're still going to have the house. If what he's just showed us is what it is what it is, and they are manipulating votes. It's so weird at 25, 30%. It was weird. How is that possible across the country? Unless, right? You'd have to have a machine programmed to do that at 25 to 30%.
Yeah. And to be honest, I mean, everyone's talking now about
can't
AI.
have you on. I'm going to have a heart attack. Can't have you on?
You guys,
ChatGPT?
our next episode is going to be the Christmas episode. We're not going to scare you anymore.
No, we're going to do
But
it nice.
because we're now going to show you puppies. River never gets to see Chaplin, but I did have people ask for proof of life. That's who's been over here snoring loudly during the whole podcast. This is Chaplin. He's 16 almost and still kicking it, plays ball every night. Well, almost every night. And he's a baby. And that's Groucho. So, River, that was a little eye candy for you at the end of the podcast.
I want to thank you for coming on, man.
Yeah.
This is, how does it feel? Let's talk about you for a second. How does it feel to be, because it's got to feel to you like you're screaming in a void when these fucking people will not pay attention. And then we sit here for 2 hours and watch it and we're like, wait, that's impossible. How does it feel?
Honestly, whenever I'm kind of like, at that wall, right, where you're like, I'm running in place. I just kind of think about where we started, how far, a year we've come.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I've got a lot of awesome people I work with within the ETA. So it's not just me like screaming into the void. We're all kind of collectively screaming into the void. And I will say this, it's really comforting seeing like normal Americans when they're confronted with like some of these problems. Mm-hmm. They're always like, yeah, I think we should take a second look. I don't know if what you're saying is true or not, but it doesn't hurt.
Doesn't hurt.
Look.
Do you look both ways when you walk?
Across the street?
And he doesn't go into a second story ever.
I mean, obviously you guys think about that.
It is, honestly, I've got people on my team who like they work in cybersecurity, they work in other things, we have military types, and it's getting a little louder now where they're like, hey, as things progress, as we get into this first lawsuit, as we get, some bigger coverage, we've had some different, people reach out. We're not covered by any media, but they're definitely like, yeah, we worry because it wouldn't be that hard to come after me. Yep. I'm super public. I am the most public face for the ETA. Like we have other executives, but like their face isn't out there the same as mine is. And it wouldn't be that hard to find my address if you know a bit more about me.
What do you find? What's the breakthrough we need? It needs to be a media breakthrough.
Yeah.
Like literally,
we need
like
coverage.
Rachel Maddow, somebody like that needs to take this
definitely.
on.
Like I think I'm
Eric
hopeful.
Swalwell.
Yeah. What would it take to get this where it needs to go? The things I just showed you about Florida, that needs to be in the media. That needs to be talked about. That needs to be covered. The lawsuit in Pennsylvania, as that moves forward, like that should be a big deal. But no one wants to sit down and have those conversations, right? Like, what do you find it is? Because it's just going to cause turmoil. People are going to get crazy. I mean, I get what you're saying, that the election places are like, well, the people that are in charge of elections don't want to examine it because then it would prove they fucked up. The media, right? Like the media.
Yeah.
So I've had some interesting responses where
that's what I want to hear.
I've reached out to a few different people across the board, and they always want to be like, okay, well, let's take this and let's go to an expert, right? That's kind of the normal response is
you are an expert.
Well, we'll get to that. So that's the point is they're like, okay, this is like stats. Let's go to an expert. Let's go to a professor. Let's go to a PhD who has statistics. Well, the problem is there are no experts for this type of stuff in the US besides like one or two people. And those one or two people are people that we've had interactions with. So they'll go to a statistician that they know or they trust, and they'll say, look at this. And this person may be a professor of statistics, but it doesn't mean they're an expert in election fraud and statistical analysis of election
trends
fraud.
You
would need you would need somebody from Europe or Russia to like.
You would need
right? If they do they have those experts?
Yeah, oh yeah. So I've actually met Zoom call. A lot of the experts that have wrote these papers that were using their methods, I met with them on Zoom. The ETA's met with them on Zoom, like Roman Udot,
we talked
Shvilkin. I haven't met Klimlik myself, but one of the people in the ETA had a meeting. I wasn't there. So they're out there. The problem is like applying the methods. And I think the problem a lot of the time is it's really easy to just look away. It's really easy to be like, I don't know if this is real or not. Like, sure, this is just a bunch of lines and numbers and data. And a lot of people, I feel like, are afraid. A lot of the larger media entities, I think they're afraid. I think they're afraid that they're going to put a target on their back because we have seen the weaponization of government officials and government entities. And I think they're sitting there weighing the cost and the analysis. And you guys are taking a risk too, I'd say, by, covering this, but to be
they
fair.
could all go fuck themselves. I don't.
Yeah.
By the way, my family's been here since 1635. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
I
So
don't
I think they're
quite know
afraid.
what that has to
I've
do
done
with
enough.
having a target on your back.
Well, because we talk shit all the time about what's really happening, and you should see that the responses we get. And when it comes right down to it, our entire job is based on free speech.
Yeah.
Like I've made my living off of free speech. And if you're going to start fucking that up, if you're going to take away my democratic rights and you're going to fuck the elections up, go fuck yourself. We'll figure it out. Because the problem is, and if you know history, whenever people do that, they go, wait, we have to weigh the cost benefit analysis.
Right.
Then it's just going to get worse.
What's
you
the
have
cost?
to stand up.
What's the cost of our democracy?
Yeah. The tree of liberty needs to be refreshed from time to time with the blood of tyrants and patriots. That's the quote from one of our founding fathers. And the only way to do that is put yourself out there. Yeah, consequences are going to suck sometimes. However, on the B side of that, they build a statue to you. You're dead, but they build a statue.
I don't know how much a statue works for me, but I'd like to see, I'd like to trust
We'll give
an
you
election
abs.
or two.
It'll be a V. It'll be a nice V.
It'll be what is it they're doing nowadays? It'll be a one of the online tokens. I'll get like an image of me because you can own
there
it.
you go. I just think that we have to get this out. We do all you can, people. Talk about this. Watch this episode and listen. When you look at the data, it's some of it's heady. I have to admit that some of it's a little bit like it takes me a minute to figure out what you're talking about.
Once it clicks,
it's just but once it clicks, you realize, oh shit,
yeah.
There's no way just at that percentage across the board that everything changes. That's impossible.
Well, there'll be some more stuff. I'm hopeful. ETA's looking at trying to build some coalitions and work with some other groups and entities and have
Any
some calls to
politicians
actions.
responded. If any Democratic politician said, "Hey, let me see this data."
Yes and no. We have sent this data and it has been received, and someone's made some like interesting public statements, but not really mentioned it. I think I'm worried that the mainstream Democrats, like high up Democrats, it's a party. It's a political party.
Yep.
And so you got a boss. And if you don't toe the line,
Right.
no matter who you are, right? Republican, Democrat, if you don't toe the line and they pull your support, you're done, politically speaking. So I think the problem we're going to run into as we get into the midterms is we need to, know who's going to, we got to get ahead of the game. Everyone's got to know this could be happening. This could be a problem.
That's what I'm saying.
Showing it,
that if they go, well, we can't do it. We don't want to rattle the cage. We don't want to do that. Well, you're going to fucking lose then because the evidence shows that they're manipulating the vote.
Yeah. And if you lose, contest, right? If it doesn't
It won't
add up.
matter either way.
So
yeah.
a good analogy would be, I want to boil the water now. I want to boil the water so the frog jumps out now before we get to the midterms. I want everyone talking about all of these problems.
If this question is in everybody's mind and we get our Congress to, guys, let's just make sure the elections, that's all we want. Just make sure all these machines got to be turned off. We can't have any machines with cellular modems. Nope. They print out a thing and then you go, boom. I mean, it could still tabulate as you fit them into
Even
it.
just doing better audits would be a step forward.
All right. Well, I want to say thank you for being on again. I know you're the only person we ever talked to this long because because you're just dry
I keep you awake
and you
pressure, so.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like literally, I'm 5 years older now because of this. But I want to thank you and keep doing this, man. And guys, I want you to go to ETA, electionchoose.org and donate to them because they're fighting for America. That's the reality. They're literally fighting for what we say we believe in. So guys, you have to think about how you're going to sign up. You have to think, you have to sign up. You have to figure out how you're going to sign off.
Like Ken says, there can be only one. I say peace out. He says later.
Yeah. So
you're third.
Yeah.
Like 6.
You can pick any word.
Any word.
Okay,
it's just not ours. Ready? Guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Look at my schedule. Go to ChristopherTitus.com to see where we're performing. I'll be at Rooster Teeth Feathers in January. But for myself, the lovely Bombshell Ray Highlander and Nathan Taylor. Later.
Peace out.
Democracy won't defend itself.
Hey, there you go. Democracy won't defend itself.
That was good.